And do I have the old agenda?
Say that again.
Do I?
The agenda?
Yeah, I thought we had 6 for the new variances. Yeah, okay, I've got the old one. That's why did I printed the old one?
1 second.
What you want?
No, it's fine. I got it. I've got the staffing report, which is updated.
Okay,
I had flagged these two for Angie, so I want to make sure they were added. That's the difference between the original one she sent out and the new one that sent out. Is this building frontage allowance between.
These are just the new business?
Mhm.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Well,
Not really.
that you should have been too.
I'm kidding.
Looks like I'm not recording. Okay, I think we can start. We can go ahead.
We can go ahead. All right. Well, first order of business is we need a chair. Anyone want to?
I would like to make a motion that Lindsay is the chair. Is this on? Is this thing on?
You have to
Yeah.
press the. Yeah.
It's on now.
Yeah, you're good.
I motion that Lindsay is the chair.
Second,
second that motion.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have a chair. Let's begin with Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business is the adoptions of the minutes from the September 4th
Let me call
meeting.
the roll call first.
Oh, sorry, roll call. Thank you, Angie.
So Evie and Evie is not here. She called in sick. I don't think Zachary is online. And Zachary too. So we have 3 members present today.
You want to do roll call and then
Yeah,
we
I
can
want to
talk
finish
to
it.
the
Yeah.
applicants?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna do that after the
Yeah.
minutes, but we can do it now.
Tamara Di Martinos,
Here,
Lindsay Zefton,
here.
Steve Minor.
Here.
Rick, do you want to do the honors again?
Yeah, I'll do that. Can you hear me? Am
I don't know that you're on.
I on now?
No,
You
are.
are.
Okay, thank you. Just a heads up to the applicants out there. We only have 3 members present today. That is our quorum. And in order to conduct any business before this board, an approval or denial requires at least a quorum voting on and passing it unanimously in this case. So if you have business before the board today and you would like to adjourn it to another date the following month when hopefully we have more members present, that's up to you. We will be willing to table your application until the following month.
Noah from Penrose. Yeah, we would like to table to the next month if that's possible.
Rick, are you open to us continuing discussion with applicants during the meeting this evening? And us tabling it, agreeing to
Yes.
table it until next month?
That's fine. And we have a
Okay.
quorum. I mean, we could, if you want to still present what you were going to present tonight, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to have a conversation with the board. I wouldn't want to, if we're gonna, do it again next month with the two other members that are here. Whatever you think, we're here, we're happy to have a conversation.
Yeah, I had some follow-up questions regarding the materials you submitted, so I'd appreciate some,
Sure.
some conversation and dialogue so that we can keep you moving forward, but, we're
Sure.
open and agree to table your application and not vote on it when you've got just three of us up here, so.
Yeah, that's great.
And that, to this,
I think
for
we're
the
second
other,
on the agenda, so I didn't know.
Right.
And we'll do a formal motion later on.
yeah,
table.
as far as tabling it, yes. Yeah, okay. Well, first order of business is adoption of the meeting minutes from the September 4th meeting. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion that the board approve and adopt the minutes from the September 4th meeting.
Do I have a second?
I can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all right. First order of business is PLZBA 2024-0052. This is new business on the agenda, 7 through 13 Park Avenue. The applicant, Fred, I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher your last name. Can you pronounce your last name for me?
Dargest.
Dargest, thank you. Fred Dargest on behalf of Troy Community Land Bank. This is doing lot line adjustments for 4 parcels. However, this requires 4 variances to the minimum lot width, which in this zone is currently 40 feet. So it's a relief of 12 feet for lot 7, 19 for lot 9, 11 feet for lot 11, and then 18.3 feet for lot number 13 is the relief sought. Also with the proposed structures, there is within this zone, building frontage should be between 60 and 80%. And so on building 7, you're at 87%, so relief of 7% over the maximum allowed. And for building on lot 11, that is 83%, so relief of 11% sought for that
Well,
building frontage. So
I think it's the opposite. It should be less than 80%. So if it's 83, we're seeking relief of.
right, it's a relief of 3 feet
Gotcha.
over the allowed
Okay,
maximum.
right, okay.
Yes.
got it.
Yep. Thank you for clarifying that. I'm just reading what you're asking for into the record, and if you would like to go ahead and tell us about your project.
Sure. So I'm with Habitat for Humanity, and our intent is to build 4 single-family homes.
Can you lift your mic up? Just,
sure.
we can hear you, but not everyone
Sure.
else on.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
All right, so
Perfect.
I'm with Habitat for Humanity, and the project is to build the 4 single-family homes, townhouse-style homes, similar to what we've done. We've done well over 100 of them in Albany and quite a few in Troy. We were able to purchase these lots from the Troy Community Land Bank. There were originally 4 lots of various widths, but in order for us to maximize the usage and put as many single-family homes in there for home ownership, we had needed to subdivide, which I was at planning a couple of weeks ago to get approval for that. And we're designing these homes according to the lots itself. These will be modular style homes, and in order to make it work, we'll need that relief in order to basically build these 4 homes on site. So that's the intent. But like I said, these were originally 4 lots of various widths. So if we had to construct as is, it would be extremely, it would not look right, because one can tell that they may have been modified at some point in the past.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much it. It's really not much.
I just wanted to start off with one question related to the building frontage. I know that's due to the width. Angie, I don't know if you can pull up the site plan, the width of the building. Is this kind of, no, it's two different kind of dimensions that you're proposing between the four structures. Is that standard for you and has a lot of efficiency, or did you pick that width of the building for a certain reason?
It was a
Basically.
combination. The larger building is a 4-bedroom home, which we find that a lot of our families do look for 4 bedrooms, and the smaller width is a 3-bedroom. And in terms of the actual dimensions, because we're going modular, there's certain widths that we need to stick within in order for it to make sense. So with the 24-footer, that's actually going to come in on two separate attachments or 2 separate boxes, so to say. And the 16-footer is a single box. We thought about trying to shrink it, but it really makes having 4 decent sized bedrooms kind of difficult. So 24 is probably the smallest that we can go within a 2-box footprint.
Got it. So shrink, yeah. So because again, the modular design, you need to have that's why you propose the 24 feet and requesting the variance. You can't make it narrower and longer to get the same square
No,
footage,
not
given
at
the
all.
modular.
Not
Okay.
at all.
Any other questions?
There's nothing on those lots now, is there?
On 13 Park Ave, there is a building that's dilapidated, and we're in the process of demolishing that. But the other 3 lots have nothing on them.
Okay, just curious.
Sure.
So the only reason, because actually I realize that the middle lot, 9 and 11 is a double lot, correct? Is that how I'm looking at it?
It was combined at one point, and we
Yeah.
don't know when, but we actually had that subdivided back into 2 separate lots.
Okay, it's subdivided now?
Correct, yes.
Okay, okay. And so the only reason, I mean, like, if you were just to stick build these, it would, I'm just asking, it wouldn't be a problem. It's only because we're doing the modulars that
Well, regardless, whether it's modular or stick,
it doesn't fall within the parameters.
it doesn't fall
Right,
within that parameters. It'll make it for really small bedrooms when we're trying to do
Right,
4 bedrooms homes. The only alternative is to decrease the bedroom count in order to make it fit, but that's not serving who we're trying to
no, exactly. And
families that we're trying to bring in.
yeah, we don't want any more Troy small bedrooms.
Gotcha. Well, these would be
I know those
relatively tiny,
bedrooms.
right? Yeah, right.
Rick?
Are the buildings, the 2 sets of buildings, are they connected, or is there a gangway between?
They're in pairs. So, and there's a gangway on each side. So
Okay.
there's, for the long and narrow one is a 3-bedroom. And there's approximately 3.5 feet or so on the side of it. And the 4-bedroom, which is the wider and shorter in depth, has approximately 5 feet of to the property line. So when you add in both of them, there's probably around 10 feet in between the 2 pair, and each side has access to the rear, to their yard via the slight gangway.
I think what Rick was asking is between, say, building 7 and 9, is that a party wall, or will there be space between those 2
Oh, no,
structures that are
no,
really close
that's a
together?
party wall. That's
Party
a
wall,
firewall,
okay.
yes. Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
That's
Yep.
what I thought.
Yes, Angie?
Is there a way of making building 9 and 13 bigger in terms of width? It seems
Making
like
buildings
that's-
9 and 13.
That's 21, right? 21 square. Yes, the second and last one.
So the 16 footers, making them
Yeah.
bigger?
Is
Um,
it-
Yeah, but at that point, we'd be eating up all of the space.
Yeah, I think the percentage wise, they're already at like 70 something percent.
Yeah,
for
but
that,
not only
so-
that, we would be eating up our side yard. So when you say bigger, like wider?
Yeah.
It's not efficient beyond 16 feet. So if we were to do, let's say 19 feet, it just doesn't work number wise, cost wise, when you're building modular. Just because the width, the typical width of transporting modular is like 15'10". So that would be the maximum. So in order to do, let's say a 19-footer, you'd have to have two separate trucks that each have 9-foot slivers or, 9.5-foot slivers on there, which it just doesn't make sense. And you're spending the same amount of money with transportation and so on. So it's just not a good business decision.
Is there a rendering of what it looks like from the front? Do you have one? Does anybody
Not
have one?
yet. No, we're
Okay,
working on that.
just curious.
Are there other similar buildings that you've done within Troy? You mentioned Albany, but within Troy that we might be familiar with? I know the
we did-
buildings along, Route 4 going towards the Troy Manans Bridge, would they be similar in style to those?
No, I'd say they'd probably be closer to what we built on River Street.
Okay.
808 through 812. Those were brick front. These are going to be siding, but it's the same, pretty much the same concept.
And then I saw the staff note that you have funding from the city of Troy as part of this project?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's ARPA funding and I forgot the acronym for the other type of funding, CDBG.
CDBG.
Yeah, so I believe so, yeah.
Community Development Block Grant Funding?
I
is
believe so, yes.
CDBG, yeah,
Gotcha.
that makes sense. ARPA and CDBG.
Yeah.
Is that funding, is that all of your funding? Is that, partial funding?
I believe that covers the majority. I think there is some equity that our organization has to put up. I'm not on that side of the business. I'm more on the development side. But from financing, I believe we may have an equity play in that as well.
Okay.
But I'm not 100%.
And then, once these are constructed, they'll be sold as individual homes?
Correct. They'll be sold to individual homes that, folks have to qualify. We typically use a Sunny Mae product through M&T Bank, or now we're letting folks try to find the best deal that they can from an interest rate perspective and then just purchase it. They just have to meet certain income requirements. I think it's 60 to 80% of the AMI.
Mhm.
But that's pretty much it.
Other questions?
I have no questions.
Thanks, Steve.
I don't think I have any questions.
Rick, Angie? No?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the room tonight that would like to make a comment regarding this project? Nope. Angie, anyone online that would like to make a comment regarding this project?
No, I haven't seen anyone raise their hands.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you the question before we move into discussion and possibly making a motion. Would you like us to table this evening, since we are down to 3 and you would need a unanimous vote from us?
I have no option though, right?
Either that or you
It-
table it to the next meeting. Yeah.
What are the options? That's pretty much it though, right?
Well, option A would be to vote on it, ask us to vote on it tonight,
Okay.
or to table it when we have two more people.
And if
Never
you
that
vote
ask
on
that
it
question.
unanimously, then
You
it's-
have your variances and don't have to see us again.
Okay.
This has been approved by planning.
No.
No, this
that?
is not.
This
Seeker's
is-
been
This
completed
is,
by-
yeah, seeker has been approved by planning, but
Right. So
not. Mhm.
assuming this is approved this evening, then I would go back to planning for final subdivision approval
Okay,
So what was planning recommendation, planning board?
to get zoning approval
Uh-huh.
and then come back to planning for final subdivision approval.
did planning declare itself lead agency for
Yes.
seeker?
Yes,
Okay,
it did.
Yes, they did.
Oh, it looks like
So-
they issued a negative declaration already for.
they already
seeker.
did that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to get 3 votes one way or another, so
All
it's
right.
up to you.
I'll go for it.
All right, any discussion or questions among the
Yeah,
board?
I want it, I just, so. I wanna-
We've got to discuss publicly. You
Oh,
got to
we have to
speak into the
discuss publicly.
microphone.
Okay. All right, so no, so I mean, being relatively new to this board, when things get changed and precedents get set, which is always an issue. I mean, when I look at, for instance, I didn't know that that middle one has already been subdivided down, number 9,
So 9 and 11.
9 and 11.
Correct.
Okay, so my question is just what is my obligation? Maybe someone can answer that for me. Is that, I mean, the way the lots are already and knowing real estate in Troy, I mean, the lots don't fit the zoning requirements.
Yeah,
So-
I had the
so-
same
So my
question.
question is, I mean, I understand, so I mean, those are already non-conforming. So to me personally, I don't have a problem with that. But, and then I didn't know that that middle one had already been subdivided. So that has that been basically subdivided right in the half? So it's like 25.5 feet or something like that?
It's like a little bit of a shift of all the
Yeah.
property lines to kind of even them all out.
And then to make that gangway down the
Right,
middle.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
we modified it just so that it
Right.
fit for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when the zoning code was written, I mean, all of these neighborhoods and districts were broken up into not so many, generalities. This happens to be a neighborhood, and I think where, the neighborhood that it's in and the ideal kind of lot width and dimension just isn't in keeping with the neighborhood. It's
Right,
just
it's
never gonna look that
pre-existing.
way.
And so I feel like my obligation is to not go with what is being told because they're already pre-existing. So I mean, that's just, I want to know what my obligations are to, I could say to him, no, you can only put 2 buildings on there with the space that he has.
No,
And-
I'm
and-
generally coming to this with, yes, it is a variation from the zoning code that was recently adopted. However, given the nature of this specific neighborhood, which we know that they couldn't,
Right,
come up with 20 different neighborhood options to fit every single
Right.
condition. That this is a specific area and for a specific project that I think would warrant that. But that's
And that's how I feel.
my opinion
Yes,
coming
yes,
into it.
That's also my opinion, but I just wanted to know.
Steve,
what-
question,
No, I
discussion?
have no questions.
All right,
And I think I have the planning board minutes up there. And I think they actually voted to recommend approval of the variances, so.
Okay.
yes. Okay, I am gonna bite the bullet on this
Bite the
one and
bullet.
do this one for us, guys. Okay, so I am going to make a motion that we approve all 6 variances that have been put forward on the agenda tonight and discussed tonight. Do I need to list them all? Just making sure I'm
I
dotting my
think
i's,
you
crossing
should,
my
I think you should mention all the variances that
Okay.
you want the board to approve.
Okay, sorry,
your
this is gonna
motion.
be a long motion. Okay, like to make a motion to approve the variances. Those include the 6 variances on our agenda tonight, which are for lot number 7, a relief of 12.35 feet to the minimum lot width. For lot 9, a relief of 19 feet to the minimum lot width of 40 feet. For lot number 11, a relief of 11 feet, that's convenient, to the minimum lot width of 40 feet. For lot number 13, a relief of 18.35 feet to the minimum lot width of 40 feet. This would also include approval of the increase to the maximum building frontage by 7% for lot 7 and 3% for lot 11. I do not believe that approving this variance will not create an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood. It's in fact very much keeping with the character of the neighborhood. Really, this can't be achieved by any other feasible method, nor do I think, again, given the character of the neighborhood and the context of what's being proposed, that this is substantial. And it won't have an adverse impact to the physical conditions or the environment of the neighborhood.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Great. Thank you very much.
It's easier when we don't have seeker attached, especially without Evie here. My seeker reference. Okay. We are moving on to old business, PLZBA 2024-0022, 125 River Street, which is the applicant Taylor 2 LLC, which is Taylor's 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah, sure. Or do you want to share? You want me to give you access to share?
You see the bottom right, it's saying permit.
Oh, yeah, I can do it first. You should be able to share now. Oh. You don't need this anymore, right? So. Okay.
On the top.
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
maybe you have to hold on to
Mhm.
that one.
So. So we did want to defer, but you know, happy to answer questions that you have a conversation.
Yeah,
the-
yeah, we absolutely will table for this evening. I just didn't want to waste the opportunity. You guys are here, and I know we had asked questions or asked you to provide us some more information at the last meeting. You followed up with that, so I know at least I had a couple of like questions or follow-up items, and I'm just assuming my fellow board members may as well. Did you want to start off with responding to those? Do you want us to jump right into the questions? How do you?
Let's jump right into the questions.
Yeah, okay, actually, I'm gonna start with kind of an off the cuff question. The required building frontage, 80% to 100% max, 44.8 relief proposed 32. Remind me again what that's applying to. It's not the frontage on River Street, it's the frontage on Division and
Yeah, and It's on Division, and if we can get that slide up, I can show you, Lindsay, what that's referring to.
Oh, no, it wasn't that one that I had the question on. I'm sorry. I'm running on a lot of, like, not a lot of sleep. I'm sorry if I'm gonna be a little scattered.
We got it.
The side setback requirements of 24.6 and 3.5 feet. That was the question that I had. Is that the side setback is from what?
1 second. Keep going. Yep, so side setbacks here. So property line here follows the arch. It's catching up now. Okay. And as you can see where the building is near those corners, near the bridge abutments, I believe those are the two that you're looking at there for the side setbacks, variance number 2.
So the setback is from the Congress Street Bridge.
Basically from the bridge. Okay.
Technically, yes.
I had interpreted some of the drawings you provided that this was all one parcel. This is in fact 2 separate parcels of land, and I'm missing that.
No, it's one parcel, but we're divided by a bridge. So it's kind of a strange condition.
Very strange because your property line, instead of conventionally, a city block would be a rectangle. In this instance, the city block follows right of ways on 4 sides, plus a right of way that goes through the middle, but stops because it's an aerial situation there. So it's a very unique piece of property. Because of the way our property goes, it follows the bridge abutment, but then the bridge continues on. So that's why underneath the bridge, there is a permanent easement for
Right.
DOT to be able to get to the bridge and do whatever they need to do. You know, the thing that DOT could have done back in the 60s, it could have did a taking, which then, which would make you lead to it being 2 properties, which sort of wish they did that years ago because we wouldn't be in front of you for any of these variance requests, but nonetheless, they put an easement over the property, a permanent one, and that's why we have that unique scenario that you see there. So our interpretation is that those become sides when you review the code.
Yeah. So this may be a follow-up conversation with Carlo, because that's actually interior to your property and is not actually a property line. So
But it is a property line nonetheless. That is,
because of the easements is how it was.
no, that's,
interpreted?
it's a physically our property line. Our property line goes, that dark line that you see, that is our property line. We own to the bridge abutment.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So like your setback from is really, again, it's interior. It's not a side setback is what I was what keeps throwing me every single time I go through this list.
Again, it's all interpretation. We could see where you could make that scenario. That's why we took it as a hard line at the bridge abutment.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that was the one question. All right, so obviously I'm gonna jump right into like the elephant in the room, right? My biggest concern has been this front setback. It's not necessarily the distance that has been the concern for me, but the dueling sidewalks, as opposed to creating the street frontage. So you did reach out to DOT. I know Steve and I at least attended the Congress Street Bridge, or the Route 2 meeting. We discussed the last meeting that they weren't going to be changing those retaining walls. They presented at that meeting a few weeks ago that they will be reconstructing those retaining walls. So, between, the city's project and the need to rebuild them anyway, as well as, at least how I interpreted DOT's response to your question, why can't that be filled so that there isn't dueling sidewalks?
Well, so what I've provided on this plan here that you can see is trying to color code what the Creighton Manning drawings as to what the retaining walls are planned to be in that area. And so the retaining walls that are not changing are the ones that are associated directly at the bridge abutment. The walls have changed as you're going towards the intersection. Yeah, sure. Changed. Yep. Yep. No, yeah, no worries. So what I did is this dark, like magenta style line that runs down through here.
Point that out, would you please?
I'm
It's
work-
this one right here.
Okay, that's all right.
Okay,
I can follow along on the sheet up here.
This magenta style line
got it.
here is
That's the-
what the existing wall lives today. Okay,
Right.
so as we've been going through this design, we've been working with and coordinating with Creighton Manning as it relates to how these walls have been moving around and such. The plan that you see here is what was just recently presented at the community outreach, which shows this line in cyan here that comes down and through. So this would be the new wall location that you see here. So this is walking down and towards, this would be where their turn lane actually is. And if you notice closely, and these have been the same site plans that we've been showing all along, is that our sidewalks and everything that we've been doing has been following the walls as they've been going through. Once again, they've been moving around a little bit, but generally speaking, what you see here is that. So that's right along the easement line. That's that 10-foot permanent or more permanent easement that's walking along that edge. And then it returns back to the bridge abutment, for this stretch probably in here where it's not going to change. You're going to have wall that's going to remain the same.
Mhm.
And you have the same type of thing that takes place as you come over to the other side. Here comes back to about where this bridge abutment here is here. As you can see, here's where, this is where kind of like it's more of like a curb wall as you get up closer to the intersection today. We have some good pictures of that, Lindsay, for the renderings that we did for later. But as you see, this, projects up and in, and then there's a little bit of a hook that comes back along that walkway in that area. As you can see, those walls end up walking themselves down. They're widening the road in there. So as the road is getting wider, this area here projects out. So it's very similar. If we took these projections, they're running kind of right into the building. If we were to draw a straight line from where our building is today, would kind of run into right where that wall, would be there in the future. But once again, those are offsite improvements. We've designed this such that it works under either scenario. So the land that we're working on is our property, but it can accommodate those improvements either way. If the wall stays there today, the sidewalks and such and everything that we have in those corridors can exist under the current situation, but then it can also work under the future situation, under both scenarios.
Right, in this hook back, can you explain that better?
So as part of the public pathways and such, there's like a hook back that's like a smaller,
make a
like a
connection.
knee wall because there's a lot of grade change. I mean, as you know, Lindsay, when you get up near this intersection, when they pull this corner back up in here, that's not a small wall. And as it comes down and over to here, thankfully we can start to transition out, but then when it comes back around, it'll transition. It'll probably be a shorter wall like you have up here near the intersection where it kind of is like more of like a knee wall in that zone. But again, not my design, but just kind of what we've been seeing, as it relates to the drawings. And so we showed these in previous submissions. It got people very confused because once again, where's our project start? Where's our project stop? So what we did is we just took the CAD files, we turned everything back on so we could highlight these layers. So you can see the representation of where the sidewalks and the things that we're looking to do and how it relates, and then how the two can actually work either scenario, whether the wall is there or the wall is not. And
Right.
the wall might move again. So
Yeah, I mean, I think my big question or concern and kind of what I, was hoping for, looking for with this project, again, to kind of have that street frontage integrity, is that you don't have that splitting of the sidewalk, or you're minimizing the splitting of that sidewalk for as long as you can. it looks as if it's really only at the edges of your projects where the roadway sidewalk and your building frontage sidewalk are actually following the same elevation. And that, I'm
And that's a
I would
function.
really like to see that shrink.
And if we could get the bridge to the original configuration that was back in 2020, where it was several feet lower, but we know where that went, and that was not something that was something that was able to be achieved, because as this walks up, the intersection elevation is going to be the intersection elevation that's driven by the bridge. And so the
Right.
grades at both sides are going to come up, and the building finished floors have to tie into the intersections at the road. So if you're 100 here, but then you're 110 here, you're going to have the 10 feet of elevation change, no matter what it is. And I just use 10 feet as just an arbitrary thing, because we're trying to capture these intersections, the street walls that the city's comprehensive plan is, spoke to for a long time. Obviously, we want those intersections engaged, especially with the corridors that everybody is talking about. We want to make sure that we have access here. And Jen can speak to the building plans and the elevations here, but it has a lot to do with the grade as it goes back.
Mhm.
There's not much you're gonna do from an elevation perspective with the bridge, as you know.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get a better understanding for, is like how that elevation interacts with the building frontage and why that gap. And thank you for updating the renderings for the specific perspective.
Yeah,
So,
Go back again.
and
I
again,
wanna
we
I wanna
were
see the
trying to
original
interpret that.
To the proposed.
So, yeah, okay,
I
so
can see.
that's what you have today. So actually you don't have this today. We have a really cool looking building
Right,
over here
right.
right now. So if you've been
We
over
had a
there
couple years ago.
recently,
Right.
happy to say that we're really close to the finish line over there.
Okay,
However, you can see here's the existing Taylor 3 building. So the Taylor 3 building sets back, from the road. It doesn't have an entry point presence here. It's actually buried in the back. So this building's entrance today is tucked in the back here. So you really don't even have any road presence. You have a generator or something at this intersection, because that's what you're staring at right now. So when we go to the next slide that Jen has put together, this is based upon the setbacks that we're requesting. So again, we're seeking that. I think on this one, we're seeking 2.8 feet of relief from the zoning code. So again, it's creating that street wall. It actually has a little bit more presence than even the Taylor 1 building now that you can see here. But Jen, I'm not the architect, and this is your hard work. So I'll give it back to you.
Thank you. And also just to note that Taylor 1, because the existing bridge is the way it is, and we started construction when we did, it is also set back from the property line. So what we tried to do in Taylor 1 was sort of mitigate that, so that when the bridge is reconstructed, we can modify the landscape potentially to kind of help with that urban effect. So we kept that in mind. And then as we're designing Taylor 2 and 3, that's also really important to us, and keeping that corner as urbanistically close as possible, but also activating it is really important. As you go down the building, so sort of by the ramp here, right, the grade significantly changes. So it goes from 29 feet all the way, by the time you get down to the river, I think it's 15 feet or 13 feet, something like that. So it's gently slopes as you go down, and there's going to be a pedestrian path there with planting and things like that as well. Yep. And then this is site 3. So this is at the bridge and Division Street. This is the existing condition. Again, you have Sage College, Sage College on the back. Unfortunately, this is the back of the building, and there's an alleyway there. So it's really urbanistically an unfortunate condition. It's not great. And then obviously, again, you have the paving, the Taylor Site 4 building. As Roger was mentioning, you can see the little generator right here. So this is really, both of these buildings are putting their back to the bridge. And what we're trying to do is put the front to the bridge and the street once it's reconfigured. So you can see here that we're stepping back a bit. Because of the way that they're widening the road here, we have to kind of plan our grading to accommodate that. So this one has a little less planting on the corner. But the reason for that is because they're actually widening the road to where the current sidewalk is right now, right, Roger? So it's something, yeah,
They're planning a whole side path, so like a
Yeah.
10+ foot wide kind of sidewalk coming off the bridge.
Yeah.
Along that section of river down to Division.
yep. So again, we're holding the street wall as close as possible as we can to those easements, because it's important to us. It's just unfortunate that DOT needs to keep those easements. And we can't get rid of them.
Has DOT finalized its plans?
This is not a
Not
DOT
a
project. It's a city project that requires DOT's approval before it can be constructed.
Okay.
And it's at concept.
Preliminary design.
Sorry.
Gotta give them a little bit more credit. than
Well-
that.
I don't think they've selected an option yet, though, so.
Design report. Draft design report any day now.
We'll go with that. Go ahead. I think you should speak to this one. This is a great
The
great
renderings are
rendering.
really helpful, if that in fact is what they're gonna look like.
Yes. So this is at the corner. You see River, or you see Taylor 1 on your right-hand side, and then you're looking out down towards Congress Street towards the river. Again, what we're trying to do is really activate that ground floor by having a retail space there at the corner, as well as the main entry and lobby. We have some services, but this is sort of envisioning what the road will look like eventually, what we're hoping it will look like. So you can kind of see without all those guardrails, what it could potentially be once DOT reconfigures this. So again, we're really trying to hold the street wall as much as possible. It is a unique condition in the city, being that there's sort of these weird intersections and non-straight streets. So the street wall isn't particularly consistent along the whole road. So we're actually, compared to what's there right now, we are improving the street wall condition. And then here is a rendering at the proposed new intersection, what we're envisioning it as based on their plans. So again, on the left-hand side, you'll see Taylor 1. This is the proposed landscape for it. And if you've been out there, you can see the curved pathway. It will look hopefully much different once the street is reconfigured. You won't have that retaining wall that you have there now, which is great. And then again, you can kind of see what this will potentially look like once they regrade the intersection.
Yeah, but there is still more of an elevation difference between where the intersection will be and Taylor 1.
Correct.
As it's currently constructed.
Yeah.
Again, since we're tabling it tonight anyway, I'm gonna ask you to do a little bit more work. But as far as generally between where you're proposing, I believe you're proposing a sidewalk to go around the back of your building along those retaining walls, correct?
Yes.
That back corner looks like it's only like a foot or two, off the edge, but I know it's gonna be probably much different than that. Like if you can give us kind of how tall that retaining wall is gonna be versus your sidewalk. I get they're in concept, they've only sent you, but some rough estimates
We'll
would
give
be
you
helpful.
a rough idea of what that is. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
talk with CME about what those target elevations are there. I know they're ever changing, but nonetheless, we'll continue to
I
do that.
completely understand whatever number you give me is like plus or minus 1 foot,
Okay.
subject to change.
Please don't hold me to it.
Yeah.
Not my
I
design.
understand, yes.
Not my
Yeah,
design.
They're not coming from your design, but from someone else, but I appreciate that answer.
So Lindsay, just so I
Mm-hmm.
make sure, because we messed up last time with the views. So you just want to understand what the relationship of the elevation is, say, here on the curve as it relates to the building. I just
mean,
want to make sure.
Really kind of spot along the wall. I mean, I'm a little.
Okay, I can-
Really,
Yeah, I
again, I'm just trying to get right. My concern is that with the building being set back, this dueling sidewalk, it tends to be you know, the sidewalk that currently exists between the Taylor buildings is this like very isolating no man's land. And I'm worried about recreating that with this project. So that's what I'm trying to visualize as well as minimize by having this setback from the River Street frontage. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Sorry for all the prodding. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay. The other question I believe was about, any other questions about these walls currently?
No.
No.
Okay. Rick, Angie,
No.
are you sick of me belaboring this one? The setback, the like step backs on the building was, I think, the other question that we had.
This is the variance request to not provide the step backs.
Yeah.
As we have mentioned, you know, the building is already stepped back quite a bit from the waterfront and also that, you know, to do that step back as we interpret it, you know, we would, so this is just a quick diagram that we provided you of what that means, that we would be stepping back at the 4th floor, 10 feet, at the 5th floor, 20 feet, and at the 6th floor, 30 feet for both the buildings as we interpret the zoning text. And what that means is if we were to actually utilize this in section, you know, the 4th floor would be a 10-foot setback. At the 5th floor, a 20-foot setback is not really usable space. So we would set that back 30 feet. And then again, at the 6th floor, set that back 30 feet. And then we gave you the numbers that would be incurred, the burden that would be incurred by stepping that back. So that includes a loss of 59 units, 65,000 square feet. We would have to do additional columns and transfer beams to step that building back. We'd have deeper floor trusses required at the step back floor. We'd also have to do taller floor to floor heights at the step back floors. And then there will be multiple mechanical and plumbing offsets as well.
So I just wanted to add on to what Jen said. So what she was showing here, I don't know, maybe I can zoom in. If you can see, so she's showing if you take it back 10 feet for each of the floors, you know, what the result would be, so that you can see on the floor plans. So on the left side here, that first one's 10 feet. The second one is the 20 feet, which is most of the, you know, corridor to the south that you see. And then the 30 feet is pretty much the entire thing. So you're essentially like losing all of those units on the first slide. I forget, do you lose units there on that on the 4th floor?
Yes, we would lose some, but it's not.
Yeah, it would become, so the 4th floor, when you lose 10 feet, you'd be designing very inefficient and funky floor plans that their marketability, you know, we're not even sure what those would be. And then, well, I'm sorry, could you go to the next slide? The one, yeah, that one. And then on the 20 feet, it is with that extra 10 feet, you could still build 10 feet of space, but you couldn't do anything with it. So you'd be building empty space. That would be nothing. So effectively you can't build that 5th floor because you couldn't do anything with the other side of the corridor. And then the 6th floor, you know, you have the full 30 feet. So effectively you wipe out the entire side of the corridor. And then what you're left with, could you go back to, to that? Thank you. And then what you're left with effectively is one floor of very funky, unmarketable units, but effectively 3 floors of almost single loaded corridor, which create extra burden and cost on the construction side because of how you have to build it. And then even though those units are, even though those units will be full-size units, having a single loaded corridor is extremely inefficient, more of a cost burden, and just also from a lifestyle perspective for those residents, a little awkward. And so it really creates an unusual and burdensome condition. And that is the reason for the request of the variance on top of the fact that the building is U-shaped, fully set back from the building at the median, I think, like 100+ feet. And really what it's doing is it's protecting the view shed up from the water, which is what the zoning code calls for, with that U-shaped setback. Folks who are on the water or on Front Street can see the city in those buildings much better than if they were right up on Front Street, but with this 3-foot setback. But really, we're creating a unmarketable, really unbuildable building above the 3rd story because of that setback requirement.
What was the difference in units at Taylor 2 and Taylor 3? Did you calculate both for both
Yeah.
buildings?
So it was Taylor 2 is 26 units and site Taylor 3 is a loss of 33 units.
That's if they do the septic.
Yeah. But you applied it all the way wrapping around the building, if you can go back to like that kind of plan view.
Mhm.
If that were only applied to like that actual frontage of the building, not where like it turns in, then it would be a loss of probably like 6 units, 8 units per building kind of thing, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We had asked for an interpretation of what this meant, what this text meant, and what that setback applied to. What that step back, what face that step back applies to. And we did not receive an interpretation.
So you've been
So-
assuming it
Yes,
refers to the entire face. It would.
within the 200 feet of the waterfront.
Right, and code has not necessarily provided clarification one way or another, correct, Rick and Angie? Are they kicking it to us to interpret that it applies to the entire face?
Yes.
I honestly.
It would be up to us to
I haven't
interpret
been
the
party
code.
to any of those discussions.
Hmm?
I haven't been a party to any of those discussions.
Yes, and that is, they are kicking it back to the ZBA to do that interpretation.
Okay, so. is
So
that what-
something for us to think about as to
Is that what-
whether this applies to the entire face of the building or just specifically the,
The first,
like
fourth
those
one.
first front parts that are actually facing the riverfront. Which not only apply to what you're asking for, whether we grant it or not, but also would be precedent for future
It would
projects
be.
going forward. So
Correct.
I'm going to raise the question and I am going to think about it and ask my board members to think about it and not answer it right now.
Okay.
So, last time when we left here, I thought they were going to produce renderings from more the river level to show what the property with
Oh,
or
yeah.
without the step back would be, which is what you asked for, Samara, I think. last
Yeah,
time.
were there any of the renderings that you completed that kind of show what that step back is? Is like
No.
one view of that, something that you could
I think
fairly quickly provide?
well, so a part of the reason we didn't provide it is just because of what we showed you tonight, because of how like the burden and the cost and the loss of the units. We wanted to share that, and so we don't have that rendering.
So is it, the purpose of the step back, I believe, is to break up the face of the building from the riverside, right? To
Right, from the
Yeah.
riverside, because
So-
on a lot of, along the Hudson River, I've traveled a lot of it, say down in like, Poughkeepsie and such, they have these huge towering buildings with these straight frontages, so I assume it's coming from something like that. Hence why I'm like, was asking the question about the arc within the building
Yeah.
versus like the front
Mm.
faces that are actually, and how we interpret that.
but with a, I don't know, you had asked for a visual.
Yeah, well, I mean, the more pictures, the better, because it's, I mean,
If you-
gotta see what it's gonna look, I mean, to me, I want the city to look awesome, you know? And I don't like what Taylor Apartments look like now. and,
Right.
You know, I want it to look awesome from the river. I personally think that Albany screwed up their river, and I want Troy to be, you know, on point. So, you know, aesthetics is hugely important to me.
Right.
This, modifying this. So,
So-
it sounds a lot easier than I know it is, but yeah.
I I think we would request is that we get a determination on what face would be required to be stepped back
Mhm.
per the zoning
Sure.
code. Because it's not clear. It says any building within 200 feet of the waterfront. And our building lands, even the curved part lands within that 200 feet.
Right.
So is it the face that's perpendicular to the waterfront? And if it's a curved building, what is perpendicular?
Good question.
Yes, that's why I
And-
raised it. It's a good question. I think it's worth, making a determination one way or another, because it's gonna come up again.
Exactly.
I don't want to, us as a, obviously code's kicking it to us. I don't want to make a decision on that when it's just three of us up here. So,
Absolutely.
I hope you guys will be a little bit patient and we will think on it and understand we need to give you a response. on
You know,
that.
and going back to that last picture that was aerial, you know, as a crow flies, I want to see what it looks like when I'm on the boat. That,
And
I'll never see it that way, ever.
You'll
Do-
see it from the bridge.
Do you mean this?
Well, just the idea, like, right, I mean, one of the things that's important to me is how it's gonna look as I am standing on the ground or in a boat, or, you know, right on the Hudson looking up. So I want to see what it looks like this way.
so
With the building as proposed, as we're bringing it to you today?
Well, or modified per Lindsay's request, but yeah, I mean, just, I'd like to see. I hate to sound.
I think the
infantile, but
point-
I want to
the-
see more pictures.
Well, I think the point is well taken that, that it is the step back itself is an aesthetic consideration. It may be that you could give us rendering showing even what you've even with your interpretation today. And the board may look at those and say, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of difference from whether or not, I mean, so these are 5-story buildings or what,
6.
6-story buildings. I mean, I think that it would be useful if they could compare what you're proposing with what it would look like if you were in full compliance with the code,
Yes.
as
So
opposed with the variance and without the variance. Is that what I'm interpreting?
And I guess, are we gonna say? this comes-
Especially since it is largely an aesthetic
Well, and
consideration.
I think it comes back to what is in compliance, which comes back.
Well, I understand that's an issue,
Yeah.
and I don't know that we can decide that beforehand for you. I mean, you could interpret it either way. I don't know how hard it is to come up with these renderings. Maybe it's a big project, but
Well, and I guess hopefully the thing that I maybe
you
didn't
could do it both ways.
we can pull something together to be like a little more clear to communicate to the board. I don't know that we can build if we take the interpretation that we're showing today, we can show you what that rendering looks like, but we can't build that building. I think that's what we're trying, hopefully maybe say a little bit more directly that we can't operate that building. It's
Which
not
is
something
why
that we
you
could
didn't
build.
do the rendering that we had discussed.
We wanted to make clear, so like, because the rendering is one thing, but seeing the floor plan, seeing what the unusable space is, hopefully that made it a little bit more, sorry, Jen. We're, hope a little bit more digestible or understandable as to the challenges, because when you see a building from the outside, you're like, oh, that, why can't we do that building? That looks fine to me and that meets the code. But we wanted to show the insides and the design and construction considerations to make clear why, even though a building might look okay from the outside, it's not necessarily something that is feasible to do.
I have a question if I can pose it. When you initiated this project and you created these plans, were you aware of the zoning setbacks prior to design?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we mentioned early on in the process is that the zoning code has changed since when, well, there's been two things that have happened. Number one, the retaining walls, the curves that we spent a lot of time talking about,
Right.
those were originally intended to go away altogether. And then it was determined that they can't go away.
Okay.
And that necessitate in some capacity. And that necessitated the redesign of these curved buildings that you see. And then once this redesign took place, the city created a new zoning code for the waterfront subsequent or after to the change of this.
So my question is, when you designed the buildings, that was pre-new zoning code? Yes or no?
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
When you laid out the design and plan for the buildings that you're presenting,
Yes.
was that done before the new zoning code
Yes.
went into effect?
Yes.
Or was that done after the new zoning code went into effect?
Before.
And was that approved by planning prior to the zoning code change?
None of this has been approved by planning.
None of
No,
it
this
has
has been-
been, has it?
No,
No.
well, part of the reason that they can't approve it is because we need the variances. They need to know what variances will or will not be approved so that they can approve site plan. We do have the negative declaration, and they did pass a resolution, which we mentioned last time, recommending that the zoning board approve all the variances that we are seeking. But until we have official action from the zoning board, we can't seek official site plan from the planning board.
Say that again, please.
Until we have official action from the zoning board as to what variances are approved, the planning board cannot give us official site plan approval.
But are they saying we'll give you the site plan approval if you get the variance?
They passed a resolution effectively recommending the approval of this building. It was a recommendation to your board to approve all the variances we're seeking.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? Public comments. Anyone from the audience that wish to make a comment regarding the project tonight? I know we at least received one comment in writing. Thank you. Anyone online that would like to make a comment regarding the project?
I did have a comment or a question, if I could ask. There's a lot of talk like earlier about like what DOT is going to approve and how they're going to change the road, and we don't really know what they're going to do.
If there's no comments or questions from online
I don't
or.
see
Wait, hold on,
live-
there might be one. That's what I'm waiting on.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes. We cannot hear you.
Okay.
Oh,
Zach.
That's
Yeah.
Zach.
Oh.
He was out of town, so he's listening into the meeting tonight, but since he's not physically present, he can't vote. So yes, I know he was trying to listen in to the meeting tonight to hear the discussion.
Does it make sense?
He's not, I don't think we muted him, so.
My audio, hold on, you guys really can't hear me? I guess you can't. Does it make sense? Wait,
I haven't seen anything.
Until DOT, you can hear me.
Nothing in the chat?
I will hold on.
I think we cannot
Oh,
hear
that's
him on Zoom, so probably it's from.
What is Zach
He's
saying?
here, yeah.
Give me a moment to type.
Hold on.
You know what to type.
He's typing.
Does it make sense to wait until the DOT project is done? It's done. It's done. It's done.
So I think it's from our end. Those on Zoom can hear him.
Good question. Questions
It's
about
from here.
how how the
Where's the setting?
first section is going to become
No, we had the same issue when we had someone else trying to talk.
Where is this? I can see that.
done. Because there seems to be.
If he typed his question, we can just read that.
I did type it.
So he is a question, which has, we've discussed, does it make sense to wait until the DOT project is done? Because there seems to be a lot of questions about the intersection. You know, this is something that we've discussed with the planning board, with you all. Zach, if you can hear me, the short answer, and happy to discuss it next month, is that we can't, because the timeline is, number one, the timeline is uncertain. What the final plan is uncertain. The easements that exist, I'm not sharing my screen, or I'm still sharing screen.
What is your
The
timeline?
easements that exist here aren't going to go away ever, or if anytime soon, if ever. And so, and even if they will, the proposed plan that they do have won't allow us to change the configuration. And so the only thing that we can do is build a project on the property that we have on the land that we're allowed to build on. So that's been part of the conversation that we've been having.
I mean, assuming you get approvals from us, from planning board, you know, by the end of the year, very early, like what's your constraint? Like, when do you hope to have a shovel in the ground?
Our goal is to have, well, based on our conversations with the state and financing, we're looking to start construction late next year or early the following.
Okay, end of 2025, early 2026.
Yes, and that process, part of that process includes, you know, a fully designed set of plans and a building permit process with the city. That's contingent upon, you know, getting these, getting the approvals from the city to do so. So it's a long timeline, but we have to start moving to keep that timeline.
Okay.
If the DOT comes in. Because there you go.
Oh, we can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So the DOT is not giving you a timeline. What happens if the DOT you start your project and you're going to start at the end of next year? I mean, that seems like a long time away. And I get that you have a lot that you have to get done before that, before you put shovels in the ground. What if, you know, come November, DOT says we're starting our project, and that could change this. We could be doing this all over again.
Well, so the design contemplates the known plan, and is built around if the plan moves forward, which is reconnecting River Street and getting rid of the ramps, but not the retaining walls. Or if it doesn't, the easement area that is on our property but belongs to DOT has utilities and city stormwater and a bunch of other improvements in infrastructure that even if that plan moves forward, has to be relocated, rerouted. The state has to go through a long disposition process. That's like a year plus. And so all of that, you know, even if the plan moves forward, which at this point, what it would be, when it would be, is not final or known. The easement in orange, Zach, I don't know if you can see the screen that we're sharing.
I can see the screen you're sharing, yeah.
Yeah, that orange area, that is on our property and that's not going anywhere anytime soon, if ever, even if the project moves forward. So, you know, we're trying to redevelop the housing authority's buildings and redevelop these soon to be vacant buildings and the city's waterfront that is on public land in the middle of a public improvement, you know, with these challenging site and zoning conditions. And we put together a plan that contemplates it staying the same or changing. But even if DOT moves forward, it wouldn't change our site plan and it can't change our site plan is what we're hopefully showing to the city.
Just to dumb it down, so basically, regardless of what happens with DOT, if they go forward, if they don't go forward, you still need these approvals to move forward with your design, and it's not going to necessarily affect your building the way you designed it. Is that true?
Yes, our building is designed to work perfectly if nothing happens with DOT or if DOT moves forward a year from now. The building will integrate with the future plans, but redesigning it or getting rid of the easements or the ramps going away, like that's not something that we can accommodate. But if the project does move forward, our buildings will integrate with that new plan if it does move forward.
Is
So
the plan
I-
to move the ramps? Are the ramps going away?
No.
Well,
Okay.
yes,
Well,
the
sort
ramps
of.
are going away. Zach, I can forward you a link to the concepts for the intersection that were presented at the public meeting. I just want to clarify for everyone, because I think we've misspoken. We're talking about DOT easement. DOT does have a permanent easement on your property, but it is the city of Troy is doing this project with federal funding, which requires DOT approval before it can actually be constructed. So it is a city project that will reconfigure this intersection. DOT is a significant stakeholder in that process.
They're involved. Yes.
Yeah, and the reason why I keep bringing it up, I understand you've got a permanent easement that is unlikely to go away. I appreciate you providing DOT's email, but the way I interpret it is they need to have the permanent easement as long as they need to maintain the reason for
Yep.
the easement. But that also doesn't mean that you can't make modifications within the easement area. My understanding is you can make modifications within the easement area, such as fill or what have you, as long as you're not impeding their reason for the easement and as long as you get a highway work permit.
Correct.
So
And we're
I
on the
just-
same page as you with that, as it
Okay.
relates to the improvements that we're talking about, sidewalks, grading, the utilities that we may need to do in there to create lighting, benches. Those are all things that we would go through the highway work permit process. It's what we're talking about is for the building to be placed. Everything we're speaking to as it relates, the footprint of the building is the setback that we keep working to as it relates to this easement. If the building's in the easement, that is going to create an obstruction to DOT or others potentially.
potentially not if you could still potentially get a highway work permit, because I know of at least one other building that got a highway work permit across the drainage easement for literally an entire building going across the drainage easement. What they name is a highway work permit. But that's a lot of
but
nuance.
Once again, and I agree, it's a lot of
Yeah.
nuance. There's a lot of nuance here. But the thing is a lot of the things that we're talking about too are not on this property. The bridge, the intersection, those are not on our property. We don't own that land. So putting the building over there right now, that's not our land. That's where the design that we have right now works for whatever happens off of our property from an offsite improvement that's taking place. This project adapts to both scenarios, if the bridge stays or if the bridge goes. I think that's the thing that we're trying to hit home, is that we're working with these constraints, these easements, the utilities that are in the ground. There's a lot of variables that are out there. The easement is well-defined as it relates to where the boundary is, and it allows us to work to that easement. And that's what we're looking to do. And as you can see from the renderings and such, we're pushing those buildings forward. We're looking for, 2 or 3 feet of relief at the intersections, and that's basically pushing those buildings to those easement lines. So
What is the blue line on this drawing? What is the blue, the blue line, like kind of to your left and right where your mouse is? Yeah, that line.
that is the line that we've put on the plans as it represents the walls that are planned for the roadway reconfiguration at the intersection. So those are not our walls. Those are the walls. We tried to prepare a figure that was not very confusing as it relates to what improvements exist today and which ones don't. So what we did is we put that bold cyan line across the plans to represent where those retaining walls would lie.
In
so
fact,
can you
that's
show me-
reference to the plan, I'll send you the city's project. That's what they're representing on their plan is the city's project, so.
Okay. Well, can you show me on the map where the ramps are coming in on this? Just with your mouse, just so I just got a vision. Okay, so that's the red line there. Okay.
Those are
And
the
that's the-
existing ramps today.
And they're talking about those ramps are going away or possibly going away?
Portions of those ramps will be going away.
Okay. So they're not really in the way of your building by any means, then, because
They're not up, those ramps are not on my property, so no, they're not in the way.
okay, thanks. I was having trouble visualizing it, but thank you very much.
Okay, Tamara,
And we don't have a timeline for DOT to
Oh.
do any of these projects, right?
did you hear that?
Couldn't hear.
Go ahead. that's fine.
There's no timeline for the DOT to do these projects? Like they're saying,
Again, Zach, I'll send you the link to the city's project website. But what was presented at the public meeting, I believe, was, we'll just say sometime next year of having final CDs.
okay, thanks. All right, that's good.
And an ever moving target, but it was next year.
I just don't want to be in a situation where we say, okay, approved, and then we have to go back because DOT decides to do something crazy. We start over again.
Well, it is highly likely that you will be past planning board and past our process, but that the city's project is in final, ready for construction, out to bid before you've finalized your construction drawings and gotten your building permit. So minor tweaks and making sure the two things merge can occur, well, in one direction or the other, whoever gets to the finish line first, I guess. is really where we're at.
So
Yes.
my question is just for the board here, and actually you can probably answer this. So assuming this is going to go forward in some form or another, is there a way for us to protect ourselves from setting a precedent down the road for all the other people that want variances down the road, the things that they can say, well, they did it, something like that? So is there a way to, if we're like, yep to them, is there a way to protect ourselves?
No.
Okay. That was an important question.
Such a great answer. No.
Short and concise. I like it, right? Other questions? Steve, you had something?
I don't have any more,
Okay.
not tonight.
Steve, you had something else to say?
No, unless you want to make.
I
a
assumed
motion.
that's what it was you were gonna suggest.
I was gonna say, if there's no other public comment or questions, I would like to thank you for coming. And make a
So
motion.
can I say something before you conclude?
Well, we gotta table it. We gotta make a motion to table their application until
Okay.
next month before.
Then-
This
we-
was, it's about the setback that they were asking whether it's on the 4th floor. or
Is it the
each-
full carve of the building or the ends? Has that been
Yeah,
predetermined?
The code says the 4th, let me read specifically what it says. I was trying to pull it up and I lost track of it. So buildings with 4 or more floors shall have a setback of at least 10 feet on each floor above the 3rd floor.
On the riverside to mitigate the visual impact of the buildings.
Yes.
So it's broad. Yeah. which is how you've been interpreting it, is that's the entire.
So,
riverfront
but I
base.
thought they were setting it back each floor of, is that not what your question was? Each,
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
each
what they were
floor
doing.
above
They
the
were-
third
they
floor.
were
Yeah.
saying
That-
each floor.
okay.
Yeah.
That is also vague, I believe, is whether or not it's 10 feet per floor, meaning 10, 20, 30, or if it's 10,
It looks
all
like
the way
10
up.
feet on each floor
It's
above the
10,
third
10,
floor.
on each floor.
Yeah.
right? so
Which is
it's-
how you.
Exactly.
But it
Yeah.
becomes 30 if you've got 3
So
floors.
10,
Correct.
20, 30. right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what you did, or at least what I saw, is you said that because of you would be left with this 10-foot on the other side of the,
Yeah, can
Because
you
you-
make our screen
I don't know
bigger?
why.
because you would only be left with 10 foot on the other side of the corridor on the 5th floor. You basically stepped back both the 5th and the 6th,
The
20
30,
feet from the prior step back, which was 30 feet on each one.
correct.
Is that
be-
correct?
Yes, because the fifth floor units would no longer be,
You couldn't have
Usable.
units on
yeah,
that. corridor.
exactly.
They couldn't be like awesome penthouses. Just-
No,
There's just not enough room.
there's not enough room. The width of the buildings is 68 feet. So you take off 10, that's 68 divided by 2, 34.
And then you
34.
need the hallway.
Then you need
Yeah.
the
You need a
hallway.
hallway.
And then you're setting back 20 feet from that. So like your depth of your unit is 10 feet.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. the small bedroom,
Exactly.
like, Exactly.
All right. Steve,
Would you like that motion to adjourn this meeting?
no, we need to table their application.
Table the application. I so move we table this application.
Second.
I will second that.
All in favor?
I.
Aye. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We got some stuff done. Some stuff.
I think it was a good
Yeah, I
conversation.
think we had good conversation.
Thank you.
My
Okay,
apologies to everyone that I couldn't make it tonight. I will.
Oh,
that's all
No,
right.
no
I
problem.
appreciate you listening in, even though you couldn't be here.
Wasn't planned, so.
Can I get another motion?
Yeah, I'll put a motion out to
Oh, I
it.
thought we already motioned to.
I'll second that emotion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Have a good night, everyone.